Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features the Uncanny X-Men number 215, cover dated March 1987. So as the cover captions make plain, it's introducing three new characters, Stonewall over here, Super Sabre and Crimson Commando. It will turn out that these are, so to speak, Golden Age superheroes, and their costumes reflect that. And obviously Storm taking them on. This cover by Alan Davis, inked here by series regular Dan Green. Let's open this one up to the first page. So we don't have a splash, but what we do have is a plane crash. And it turns out this is the reminiscences of Maddie Pryor and the Boeing 747 that she was piloting, and that crashed at the exact same moment that Phoenix killed herself on the moon in Uncanny X-Men 137. So here's the... Now this is, imagine being tasked with drawing a plane crash. So difficult work to do this, but I think Alan Davis does a convincing job here. And then we see, of course, Madeline is the sole survivor of the plane crash. But what's most interesting is that in this iteration of the crash, we see her emerging from the flames, and also in the background, hovering above her, the Phoenix effect. So implying a connection between Phoenix dying on the moon and Madeline incredibly surviving this conflagration of the Boeing 747 crashing and burning up. And then what happens is we get her reminiscences of being abducted by the Marauders and knocked out as well. So this is something of a kind of like a dreamlike series of memories that are blended together. So we've got Scalp Hunter here and Arclight, as it turns out, but Maddie comes to wondering about where her baby is, Nathan Christopher, and she punches Arclight and falls out the back of the ambulance, and reality shifts, different outfit, not my airline uniform, as the first person stream of consciousness captions make plain. Different night years later than the crash, winter instead of summer. Same city though, San Francisco. The medics are after me. And this would remind us of Uncanny X-Men 206, when at the very end of that issue, when the X-Men were in San Francisco but about to make the move back to New York, we saw Jane Doe, a red-headed Jane Doe, being brought into a San Fran hospital. So we're getting the backstory on what happened that night before the arrival of the Jane Doe. And we see that Maddie was hunted down by Scalp Hunter and Arclight. And we get here that, she's wondering about where Scott is. Why isn't he here by my side when I need him most? It's because of him, those Marauders said. They grabbed me and my son. They won't keep either of us. So Nathan Christopher abducted as well. We don't see him anywhere in this kind of dreamlike flashback. And we see Scalp Hunter getting ready to finish the job. And that's his power to assemble a weapon from his own costume. So he's doing that here. And we've got that classic Glynis Oliver device of a blood red background to indicate impending or actual violence. So he shoots off his impromptu devised firearm, and that marks the end of the dream. And we've got this shatter effect here. Dream ends, memories end, life ends. Or does it? So then the scene switches, and we have a splash page at the X Mansion, and we have the Blackbird being loaded up with the casualties of the mutant massacre. So the three X-Men who have been severely injured. Colossus here being loaded into the Blackbird by Rogue, and already in there is a comatose Nightcrawler, and Kitty Pryde, who is discorporating. She's unable to reverse her phasing power and is in a permanent state of lack of solidity. And here we've got Psylocke, who's a new team member as of Uncanny X-Men 213, talking with Storm about the wisdom of splitting the team up. So Psylocke explicitly asks, do you think it's wise, Ororo, to split the X-Men's forces, especially with the Marauders liable to attack again at any time? So Ororo gives her reasons. That, Elizabeth, is precisely why we must. Our wounded will be safer at Moira MacTaggart's mutant research facility in Scotland. That's on Muir Isle. I want your group to escort them there. So here's our creative team. Chris Claremont as ever writer, Alan Davis guest penciler, and Dan Green inker. So the kind of issues that were there with Alan Davis's previous guest artist stint on Uncanny X-Men 213, when he was inked by Paul Neary, and those very fine lines that really weren't showing up in print. All of that gone here in this issue. Dan Green knows how to ink, so it's going to come out legibly and visibly in the finished product, and we see that here in this issue. And I do think that Dan Green's inks complement Davis's pencils very well indeed. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. And the title of the story, Old Soldiers, and we shall see those old soldiers shortly. So here we have the loading process continuing. As I said, Nightcrawler's comatose, so he's completely out, but Kitty's conscious, just not able to turn her body solid again. And the dialogue between Psylocke and Storm continues. Psylocke really wants to help out more, but Storm is arguing with her that she wants Elizabeth to go because her psi powers will hopefully provide warning of any attack, and Rogue because she has the raw power to repel any such attack. So Storm thinking strategically there. And then here in the background we see Longshot. So Longshot has turned up via Uncanny X-Men Annual number 10, but this is his first appearance in the flagship Uncanny X-Men comic itself. And he's here in the company of Dazzler, who's joined recently in the previous issue. And they're both in costume. And it's interesting to see them paired together by Claremont here, well, and Davis, but also the paralleling of their costumes. We've got the star here on the left-hand side of Longshot's costume, and on the right of Ali's new Dazzler costume. So she's in a completely new costume from the one that she wore when she was originally introduced to the Marvel universe, and much more of an 80s costume, yes, with the little bolero leather jacket. And so Storm is wondering about whether Longshot can be trusted. She says here to Psylocke, I instinctively wish to accept him. The longer he remains among us, the more he seems to belong. And yet, can we afford to take anything or anyone at face value? Because Longshot is there by Mojo's design. So how is that going to turn out for the X-Men? She doesn't know that entirely, but she has her suspicion. And also there's some resentment regarding, or some suspicion regarding Ali. Psylocke thinks it's resentment because Ali was Malice's cat's paw. But Storm says no. But she does confirm that she does not trust Dazzler either. Not entirely, not yet, any more than I truly trust myself. So, Psylocke asks her, then what hope do we have as a team? And this is a new team. And Storm responds telepathically, that is what I must learn while the rest of you are gone. So we're going to have some reflection on, like what the X-Men, what this new team amounts to, and what their bonds are together. They're unproven, and is it going to work out is the question that Storm has for herself, and we'll see how it all turns out. So Longshot, ever sanguine, happy to help out, and saying he feels sad to go away. Ali too. And they go aboard the Blackbird, and I like what's coming up next. Davis's illustration of the Blackbird taking off. So we have it's got a capability of vertical takeoff. so it rises. Let's just read through the narrative captions here. Silent as the wind, the X-Men's hypersonic aircraft rises from its underground hangar through the surface hatch, hidden deep in the heart of the wood that covers most of the school grounds on the shore of Breakstone Lake, and then, in a burst of stellar fire, it is gone. So I really like this 3-panel sequence here as it shoots off, and Wolverine is on his hunkers looking out over the edge of Breakstone Lake. I'll just finish off the caption. A shooting star in reverse streaking for the roof of Earth's atmosphere in a great parabolic arc that will bring it to its destination within the hour. Within the hour, eh? Imagine that. And here we have Storm coming up to Wolverine and saying to him, "You've not spoken, Wolverine, since we returned from Dallas with Allison. Nothing much to say," he says. "We've hardly seen you." And he responds, "Figured that was safest. I nearly killed you, Aurora, after that malice caper." "That was not your fault," she says. "So you say." "Logan, I have a job to do. Upstate. I will go alone if I must, but I prefer having someone to cover my back. There is no one I trust more than you." "Let's go then," he says as he throws away the cigarette, but he doesn't take her hand. And we've seen that between them, this business of taking each other's hand. We saw it in Uncanny X-Men 210 when they were investigating the Delacorte Theatre the night after the battle with the Hellfire Club, Cardinals and Nimrod, but not here, not on this occasion. So this question of trust is running through this particular issue. Then we're back in San Francisco, 3 time zones across the continent, and San Francisco General Hospital, and we've got the Jane Doe here. But just, oh, and also this is interesting, we've got a little Easter egg here with the doctors. So one of the doctors is Dr. Schwartz, Julie Schwartz, so a Golden Age to Silver Age DC editor, and the other doctor is Diane Duane, a sci-fi novelist. So Claremont having a little bit of a laugh here, and also of course Maddie's own name, Maddie Pryor, the name of a singer in Steel Eye Span, one of Claremont's favourite bands. So then we pick up with Storm and Wolverine driving up to upstate New York, and I like this layout. We've seen it before. If you look back at Uncanny X-Men 213, this seems to be a layout favoured by Alan Davis at this period. We've got a long vertical panel, in this case an establishing shot, and then a series of horizontal panels, 5 in this case, to the left of the vertical panel. So there's a couple of those layouts in issue 213, if you want to check back at those. And we've got again this kind of heart-to-heart dialogue between Storm and Wolverine here, where Storm says to Wolverine that she was hoping better from him, and he says, "You don't understand. That moment in the alley," he's referring to the previous issue, "when I nearly killed you, I couldn't tell who was friend or foe. None of us could. Not even Psylocke," says Storm, with a very kind of skeptical look on her face. "You're missing the point," he says. "If I can't trust my senses, how the blazes can I trust anyone? I lose them, Aurora, what's left? But they've arrived." So this is interesting because, yes, he was taken aback in the previous issue about what happened with his senses and letting him down. And this is this is the beginning of Claremont weakening Wolverine over the course of the next few years, which was to ultimately lead up to Wolverine dying, which of course never came about because of Claremont's abrupt departure with issue 279 from the title. But back to this story, they arrive at their destination, which is Sara Grey's house, and it has been firebombed, and they've arrived to witness the structure burning down to embers and ashes, and Wolverine is asked to determine what might have happened using his senses, using his sense of smell. No death sense though, he determines so far. And in the meantime, Aurora is thinking about interesting questions. If we are being attacked through our friends, Sara Grey is Jean Grey's older sister, everyone we know is in danger. They must be warned, even Forge. So easy, so fitting amidst chaos and disaster to think of him. His devices tore my elemental powers from me. He offered to find a way to restore them. Has the time come, I wonder, to swallow my pride, set aside my rage and hurt and hate, and accept? To fly again? Is that not what I truly want? Or do I hold back because I'm afraid? So this is setting up for ultimately Forge coming back into the book. We haven't seen him since Uncanny X-Men 186, Life Death Part 1. But he's going to be coming back in a few months' time. And so Wolverine is continuing his sifting through the wreckage, and then he catches some sense. Cyclops, which shocks him and, shocks Storm and a female. And then Wolverine is aghast. No, he exclaims, not again. It can't be. And Storm is baffled. She asks him what, but Wolverine is really spooked, goes berserk, and he swings his fist around. Remember, he's got adamantium-laced bones, and he knocks Aurora out cold. So she doesn't get to hear him say, not her, not Jean. And then we have our narrative captions here. Hair like flame with a spirit to match. She was the first among the X-Men to call him friend. He loved her while she lived and mourned her when she died. And this is Claremont retconning Wolverine's relationship with Jean. Something he has been able to do by virtue of the Classic X-Men project. So Classic X-Men, you're getting the reprints of Claremont's original issues of X-Men with Cockrum and Byrne. But Claremont afforded the opportunity to go in and edit and revise and add little scenes and change dialogue, and also in the backup strips flesh out and in this case retcon a relationship, an early relationship between Wolverine and Jean, or at least from Wolverine towards Jean, which aren't there in the originally published issues, but he's working it in here now. So Wolverine heads off and we won't see him again until the next issue. Then we pick up with the Blackbird on its hypersonic flight to Muir Isle, and Kitty Pryde has left her stasis cocoon and has come out to look at Longshot. All the women are in love with Longshot, and she's thinking that she'll never have a chance to tell him not the way a boy and a girl should. It isn't fair. I don't want to die. Why can't someone save me? Why does everything have to seem so hopeless? So she kisses Longshot. And he shouldn't feel anything, but it wakes him up and he does feel something. And also we get a hint here of his empathetic powers. So he says, Rogue, when she touched me, my mind filled with images of her past, as if I could read who she was, the same as I've been doing the X-Men house. There was a sense of future too, but it was all jumbled, chaos-riven and broken to bits, and surrounded by an awful void that hungers for her. Rogue is that death, and Rogue doesn't know. And then we pick up with the unconscious Storm coming to, and she comes to in a cell of some kind, manacled to the wall. But Storm is, since youth, a trained thief and escape artist, and she's got her lockpicks hidden away in her leather jacket, and she uses them to easily unshackle herself and escape from the prison cell. And then she makes her way up to the surface, noting this punk girl along the way, and she emerges into what appears to be a hunting lodge with many different trophies, both guns and rifles over the doorway here, and animal heads along the wall. And also look, a tattered Nazi banner here and some shells and medals. So hints about who the owners of the lodge might be. And so as she is sneaking around and trying to determine where she is, she sees these three men walking as if they know and own this land. So she hops up onto an internal balcony here to scope out who they are and listen to them, but she is caught here from behind by the Crimson Commando, who says that she's going to get punished. So what is going on here? Well, Storm makes a break for it and tosses Crimson Commando onto a coffee table, and she is accosted by Super Sabre here, who is a speedster, as she herself says, and he introduces himself as one of the fastest men alive, and doesn't even touch her, using this Mach 1 punch to let air pressure blow her off the balcony onto the ground. And then she punches Stonewall, but of course makes not a dent on him at all. And she's giving a good account of herself here, pulling the rug out from under Stonewall, who lands on Crimson Commando, but she just isn't able to get the best of Super Sabre, who with a snap of his fingers and a microsonic boom knocks her out cold again. So what are these guys about? Well, we get some explanation in the next few pages. And the girl, who she is, she's the girlfriend of a drug dealer who they've already hunted down and killed in the woods. Storm says that they murdered him, but they disagree. And she accuses them. Who do you think you are to hunt innocent souls for sport? So then they start explaining, introducing themselves, revealing that they fought in World War II against the Nazis, and afterward they did their best against the crooks and lowlifes who'd infested our hometowns like cockroaches. We were ready to do the same to the stinking Reds, but Washington wouldn't let us. Those commie simp, bleeding heart fellow travelers were afraid of a third world war, a nuclear war, says Crimson Commando. They told us our work was done, we'd fought the good fight and earned a rest. There was no more need of our skills and talents. Maybe we should have cut loose anyway, followed our hearts to glory, but instead, to our eternal shame, we did as we were told and retired. So I think Claremont is reflecting here a little bit on what was going on in the mid-80s with series like Watchmen and Dark Knight Returns, and kind of introducing these kind of golden age superheroes into the X-Books here to reflect a little bit on that, and the kind of things that Miller was exploring in Dark Knight Returns, like the coarsening of the culture and society away from some of the shinier ideals and visions of the Silver Age, and maybe a connection back to the violence of Golden Age superheroes. So these are Golden Age superheroes, and they are violent and they kill, but very different from Silver Age Storm and her ideals. So we get further there's a lot of words on this page from the guys here, but Storm decides that she is going to beat them. If you thought me a criminal, you were mistaken. But I know, even if you accepted my story, you cannot afford to release me. I know too much, and to protect your pathetic little game, even innocence must be sacrificed. But she's getting ready to escape and take the punk girl with her. And then we get Storm's thoughts. Night falls early in these autumn mountains and brings with it a bitter chill. I wish I'd kept my sweater. So much for my grand gesture and common sense. I've been cold before. I suspect Priscilla would have needed it more than I. That's the girl's name. And she thinks, can I trust her? So this theme running through the whole issue. I must. Our lives are bound together. I owe her nothing. The sensible move would be to abandon her. Yet, who am I to judge? So, they continue on into the forest, and the trio of Golden Age heroes are after them now. The game's afoot. So next issue, Crucible. So excellent art here throughout this issue, storytelling from Alan Davis, and as I said earlier, nicely complemented inking wise by Dan Green. Lots of lovely careful work done here on the foliage of the trees in the forest, and the shadows and silhouettes. Really nice work. So I do hope that you enjoyed this review and commentary on Uncanny X-Men 215. If you did, please like the video, and if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.